Joining us now is MD CEO, Red Clay Advisory, Dr. Adun Okukpe, and the MD CEO, Skyview Communications, Femi Lawson. Good morning. Good morning. Thank you for joining us on TVC Breakfast. Now, talk to us about the travel week or promoting the culture of traveling. Some Nigerians will tell you that we don't have that money to be moving around. And the time as well. So how important is it for one to even think about inculcating this culture in our lifestyle? I'll start with you.
Right, so thank you. Good morning. So if you think about tourism as recreation and what you do in your non-work time, so in your leisure time, then we actually start to see it as a vital tool to learn about our culture, to learn about our society, to learn about our environment, but also to relax. And I think for me, most importantly, tourism needs to be inculcated into our national culture because that's how you learn. Nigeria has so many different cultures and so many different resources. So if we don't travel from one place to the other, how then do you learn about who the other person is, what they're about, and how do we start to really understand our national identity? So that's why tourism is very important. So it's not just about traveling abroad, because we'd like to travel abroad. It's also about saying, how do you also then travel within your own country?
But with the situations we have in the country, it makes traveling quite a Herculean task. I mean, first of all, we are workers. We have to work. We have to provide for our families. Of course, there's a problem of insecurity in some certain parts of Nigeria, which if you say you want to go to the northern part of Nigeria, in the mindset of Nigerians, the generality of the north is prone to Boko Haram attacks.
And also the state of roads.
The state of the roads as well.
Okay, basically, if you talk about insecurity, it's not peculiar to Nigeria. There is insecurity all over the world. But one industry that has been growing constantly, even with all the insecurity around the world, is tourism. Because it's basically the movement of people.
Yes.
And you see, it's an assumption when we say we don't go around Nigeria because of bad roads and all of that. Because our lifestyle, our culture, we are party people. If I work in your organization and I'm having a party somewhere in my village and you think I'm a nice guy in the office, I'm sure probably you even brand the boss, you wear ashwebi and you go down those villages. Yes. And you see, it's just what we need to do is to understand and link that same mentality into tourism, into learning the culture, into relaxation. And when you say we walk, yes, everybody walks. Walk is also part of tourism, I hope you know, because even if you, your job is taking you to Abuja, apart from the interview and the report you're doing, there is also a culture in Abuja. There are some things, there are destinations in Abuja
that you'd like to see.
That you can see, that you can enjoy. You're going to be in an hotel. You're going to pass on the road. You're going to see the locals. You don't want to eat the same thing you see in Lagos every time. You want to see something you're not used to. All that makes up tourism. And this is what we're talking about.
All right, but the focus this time around is to see how Nigeria can tap into the potentials, because we have been talking about looking at generating revenue outside of oil.
Yes.
Now, how do we begin to do that, to generate the foreign direct investment and all of it for the country?
Right, that's a very good question, and I think that that's something that, when you hear about tourism, we've always said about tourism potential, but what we're trying to focus on this year is the creative tourism opportunities. And why is that? It's saying that for the challenges that you've mentioned, so in terms of perceived insecurity, perceived bad roads, we're saying that what about ensuring that when people then travel, they're able to engage in the tourism activity. So it's not just you go to Abuja, like Femi said, and go to a hotel and go to a restaurant, but actually then engage in the culture, right, of those people that are in Abuja or people that are in nearby environs. And so we're focusing on creative tourism. And what is creative tourism? Creative tourism is basically saying that we're adding an experiential nature to tourism activity. Because what we have seen is that we've seen a lot of tourism operators. We've seen a rise in tour operators. What happened when we had the recession is we had the whole Made in Nigeria movement, and a lot of people started saying, how do we then travel within Nigeria? And so, but what the problem is, or the issue is, the focus is really on you visit, so we're calling them trips. So you go on a tour trip, you go and visit this place, you take pictures and you come back. How are you engaging with the culture? How are you engaging with the practices? How are you learning how they make their food? How are you learning how they dance? How are you learning how they do art and craft? And when we focus on that is when you can then start earning a lot of revenue from tourism.
Okay, so let's move to Femi now. How do we promote tourism in Nigeria amongst ourselves?
Okay, the number one thing is engagement, like what you TVC is doing now, you're trying to talk about. We need to talk more. You see, one thing about Africa, about Nigeria, is we don't talk about our assets. We don't let people know what we have. And we need to do more of this. We need to do engagement, and that is one of the reasons we introduced the Nigerian Travel Week.
All right.
Because we have to educate ourselves. We have to let the locals know what we have, and we have to teach ourselves, oh, these are the things we have, and that's the best way we can go about it.
All right. Thank you so much for speaking to us on the importance of traveling. Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
What are the potentials you see in Nigeria if we say we want to encourage people to travel around the country?
Okay, the biggest is our culture, and we have about 371 ethnic groups. So we have basically 370 different lifestyles. That is more than enough to sell Nigeria. And of course, we talk about ecotourism assets. You talk about entertainment, arts, and all of that. So if you look at the music industry in the world now, you can see what Nigerians are doing. Yeah. You can hardly go through 5 streets in the US and the UK without you hearing one of those guys, a Nigerian song playing that. So back home here, you also see the way we dress in our culture. It's so beautiful, it's unique, and everybody wants to know about that. The kind of food that we eat, the kind of people that we are. You see, it's one thing we should realize is we can't continue to sell our birthright to the outside world because we have things that they want to see. The news is, the story is, they keep saying Africa is backward, Africa is this, Nigeria is corrupt. They keep coming.
Yeah.
So you ask yourself, why do you guys keep coming?
That's the situation, and it's a big question now. But I will move to Adu now. Why are we not taking advantage of the potentials we have in tourism, since we have these foreigners always coming? You have festivals all around, all year round, and you see foreigners coming in more than Nigerians who even stayed here. Why don't we take advantage of this for economic gains?
Right, so the first thing is that tourism is a very multifaceted industry. So it's very difficult to also understand. That's the first reason why. And so it's almost like, how do you start to engage with it? Successful destinations have broken it down. So when you see people saying go to Dubai, it was a deliberate strategy, right? And then they had different stakeholders across the value chain actually working within tourism to promote it. But in Nigeria, we're almost expecting the tourists to do that work for us. So that's one. So it's almost saying, unless you sell your market, how will people come and buy?
Another aspect that I want to talk about, which I'll take up with you, Mr. Lawson, is the aspect you said Nigerian musicians are doing a lot. And they're putting a lot of effort.
Absolutely.
And that's on their own part.
Absolutely.
It's not like the country is pushing them as such. So I would like to ask, as stakeholders, what are you doing to encourage that and push Nigeria out there?
In terms of tourism?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, part of what I'm doing is being in your studio today to preach to Nigerians that tourism is the way
But that's
forward.
not enough.
Now, it's not enough. We have different activities all through the year. We have different conferencing, different events, like we have the Travel Week coming up. Sometimes in March we have the TDA coming up. Sometimes in April we have, we are presently working on a document, on a road plan for next year in terms of engaging young entrepreneurs on how to take advantage of the tourism sector. Because you see, one thing you need to realize is tourism is also the largest employer of labor in the world.
Absolutely.
And okay, so if you say tourism is the largest employer of labor in the world, and we say Nigeria has a great potential in tourism, why are we talking about unemployment? So we have to do something to create this path for people to understand. And this is why we are doing all of this activity. Nigerian Travel Week started yesterday with an opening of a virtual tourism center somewhere in Lekki, in Orbit in Lekki, where people can go there and have a site they look at.
How accessible is this? Because not everybody can get to Lekki at this point.
Yeah, of
so
course,
we need to make it as accessible
it's
as
also
possible.
coming to Ikeja and going to Port Harcourt, Abuja with time. And all of this activity is basically to promote tourism in Nigeria. Now, but why did we come up with the virtual tourism thing? It's because we need to communicate these assets to ourselves.
Yes.
First, because before we even communicate it to the foreign world. And so what we did was to do an immersive video, a 360 immersive video in VR, so I can take you through anywhere in Nigeria while you sit here. It's not to take the place of that destination, but to introduce that destination and to want you to visit that destination. So what we are doing as a team at the Nigerian Travel Week level is not just doing conferencing, because it's not about talking. We are also putting actions in place. We have a platform to train the youth, train people on entrepreneur, on tourism. We have aspect to train tour operators on what they need to do. And we're talking about creative tourism now, educating the locals on the benefit of selling your culture to me, so that when I go back to my community or I go back to my country, I'm going with an experience. And these are all this activity we are trying to put together to make this work.
All right, Femi Lawson, Adun Okukpe, we have to leave it at this point, but we must thank you for your time
Thank
on
you very much.
TVC Breakfast. I'm certain that Theophilus is thinking of traveling anytime
Yes.
soon.
Maybe we can go to the Yankari Game Reserves next year.
Absolutely.
Maybe, or the Oshoshobo Festival. One of these
We'll go
festivals.
to the travel virtual.
We will go to the travel week.
Definitely.
Well, let's see Nigeria in virtual lights.